Hello, so I am doing a short video on the shadow, which is something that I started exploring, I would say, probably about a couple years ago. And I have known of Carl Jung for probably about a decade or so, none of his work. I read some of the book Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung. I was able to find that at a bookstore once. And that was good. But the shadow is a Jungian archetype that consists of sex and life instincts. It is part of the unconscious mind and is composed of repressed ideas, weaknesses, desires, instincts, and shortcomings. The shadow forms out of our attempts to comply with cultural norms and expectations. So that's where the idea of the shadow stems from. I think of it in reference to the parts of ourselves that we don't like to look at or show people. That's my definition of the shadow. And I think everybody has that. And it's not the same things for everybody, though. It could be character flaws that are hard to overcome. It could be behavioral patterns, bad habits, anything that we have to kind of take accountability for or just think about or analyze. But it varies person to person. You know, I think that one of the things that I appreciated when I did read for, Jung's work on his own, is he's distinctly different from Freud, and he was originally associated with Freud. He has his own ideology and a bunch of different schools of thought. So I just think that it's really interesting. And there's not really a lot of Freudian influence in his work. But that's my description of the shadow, is just the stuff we don't like to acknowledge. The quote that Jung wrote on the shadow is, "There is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. One must not strive for perfection, but rather wholeness of personality." I think that's pretty interesting and like kind of something to think on as well. I would also say that I feel the shadow self doesn't have to be like, I don't know how to describe it, but there's no specific type of shadow self. The benefits of working through the dark parts of ourselves, though, is accessing the light within each of us, accessing the enlightened parts of ourselves. In life, we have to think of certain things in polarity. There is no light without darkness. The two exist because they are opposite. And so that is the root of the shadow. And then I wanted to go into shadow work. I started my shadow work journey about 2 years ago. At the time, I wasn't really doing any kind of like spiritual-ish content, you know, enlightened content. I usually keep that pretty personal, to be honest. This whole sharing this part of myself, like I got my first deck of tarot cards when I think I was in like, I don't freshman year or something. I don't know. But like I kept it pretty personal. So yeah, I wasn't doing spiritualish content. So I don't think I put that anywhere online. But shadow work is uncovering the hidden parts of your psychic to understand yourself more, heal from old wounds, and improve relationships. In other words, it's the work you do on the darker side of yourself that you don't want or cannot see. Shadow work is good for you. The way you find your shadow self. These are 3 steps to visualize your shadow. Bring the light, someone in your life who judges you harshly. Imagine them gazing at you derisively. 2, take up their perspective. Once you really feel the feelings, put them out in front of you and give them a face and figure that looks like a version of you, a lesser version. So that's a very intense experiment. I would not recommend that if you're new to shadow work or even in the beginner levels like myself, because even though I started it a while ago, I feel like my shadow is not like it's like something that is, it's kind of something that I'm always working on. So it's like I feel like I'm constantly doing healing, whether I'm doing shadow work or not. So sometimes I'm not always doing shadow work, if that makes sense. But that's a really good experiment. Also, for those of you who, just like on a side note, for those of you who might be interested in like astral projection and out of body experiences, I do want to say that um, you guys should think of the movie The Conjuring. Like, I'm not trying to be like, what do you call it? Like, fear mongering or anything. But like, when you leave your body, whether you're like having a psychedelic experience or just all natural, however you're doing it, when you leave your body, you're susceptible, like energetically. So I just want to throw that out there. Like, a lot of things, like, there's a reason why research is kind of important in understanding certain concepts before you delve into them. Um, so just remember that. That's kind of my advice. And some people have a natural propensity to astral project. Um, I think that's for sure. But I do hope that people start. I started my shadow work with like journal prompts. So some of you guys might feel comfortable looking that up, finding ones that speak to you and resonate with your journey right now, and writing on them. So I genuinely hope that this is helpful and someone starts to explore shadow work from this video, because I feel like the benefits are really understanding yourself, and you can't really go wrong with that. So yeah.